Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, freaks and geeks, trolls and derps alike, welcome all. I am none other than Mullet Mike with the Paddle Gaming Network, bringing you creepy gaming. Don't act surprised. I'm sure as hell not. Of course, we're going to be covering Five Nights at Freddy's 4 for the season finale. It only makes sense. I've gotten a ton of requests for this, and as a matter of fact, I would like to say special shout out to all these fine folks right here. Thank you all so much for your suggestions and support. Because of you, you've actually topped last season's record and made this the most highly requested episode to date. I feel like I've already talked until I was blue in the face about Five Nights at Freddy's, but game creator Scott Cawthon thought we should have another installment. So, here we go. And for those wondering who did request, the only reason I've waited as long as I have is simply because I wanted to wait till the Halloween DLC was out so I can review that as well. So, without any further ado, turn the lights down and the volume up as we journey into some more fucking Freddy's. God help us. Five Nights at... Oh, fuck! Here we go again! Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Let's face it, you either love it or hate it. I can't remember the last time I've seen such a popular franchise be so polarizing. Oh, wait. I know a lot of people loathe this series at this point, but understand that I again have had a lot of requests for this, so I can't just ignore that part of my audience. So if you ask for it, this one's for you guys. The fourth installment of creator Scott Cawthon's survival horror series was originally scheduled for release in October for Halloween. But as per usual, the enigmatic developer released it early as he did with the other sequels. Real quick for those unaware, Five Nights at Freddy's is about a group of creepy animatronics who, over the course of the games, we learn more about as the lore continues to build. That's the simplest way I know how to put it. But chances are, if you're watching this, then you already know. Shortly after the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, series creator Scott Cawthon began teasing a follow-up with a series of images on his website, scottgames.com. Each image depicted a different animatronic with the phrase, "Was it me?" Now, while I admittedly had a lot of questions following FNAF 3, one question stuck out to me more than others. What about the bite of 87? It was a major plot point in the first two games, but omitted from the third entirely. So basically, when I saw the rhetorical question of was it me, I got excited because I thought just maybe we will get some answers. Then it happened. It was officially announced. Five Nights at Freddy's 4. The final chapter. The final chapter? Wait a minute. How are you going to make a game called Five Nights at Freddy's and only make 4 games? It doesn't add up, Scott. What are you doing here? Oh, wait a minute. FNAF World. That'd be a 5th game, wouldn't it? Okay. Well, that makes sense. Never mind. When I saw it said the final chapter, I creamed my khakis. Maybe. Finally, now, after all the theories and Easter eggs and meaningless references, maybe now we will get all the answers we've been waiting for. Well, let's talk about the game and we'll get into that. I should note, I do find it strange that the words "the final chapter" are nowhere to be seen on the game's title screen. The premise is fairly simple. Basically, you're a twitchy little kid who's hopped up on either Mountain Dew or Adderall who stays up all night frantically running back and forth from door to door to keep the monsters that may or may not exist in his head at bay. Yeah, that really kind of sums it all up. Stay creepy. Thanks for watching. Peace! In all seriousness, it's nice to once again see the change in dynamic and gameplay. Like I said, the addition of running rather than just sitting in a stationary position was a nice change up. It's funny how the smallest differences can really add a new level to the game's already established framework. Unlike previous installments, we are not greeted by the phone guy. Either of them. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's a single word of spoken dialogue in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Rather than setting the tone like in the previous games, you were left to figure out the plot on your own. I'll admit, I went into this game blind without seeing any playthrough, and it was intimidating as fuck. The fear of the unknown is fear in one of its finest forms. The fear of jump scares, on the other hand, is weak and overused, but in all fairness, the anticipation of a jump scare creates, I'd say, more tension than terror. As I bluntly stated earlier, you play as what we assume to be a young boy, terrified of the hellish, soul-sucking animatronics of Fredbear's Pizza. I don't blame you, kid. I was right there with you. Ugh. The game opens up with a golden Fredbear talking to this young child. We find that the kid is locked in his room by who we find out later to be an abusive sibling. Now, is this the same kid we play as during the night stages too? I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming so at this point. The child refers to his plushies as his friends. So, yeah, either this kid is schizophrenic or this Golden Freddy is really talking to him. Either way, pretty fucked up. I thought the last game took a darker tone, but I'll give credit where credit is due. This game is just as dark. This installment will be easier to explain than others, mainly because there's no phone guy exposition, and really nights 1 through 4 are basically the same, just with higher difficulty. So rather than working in a pizza place or a haunted attraction, we've established that you play as a young boy trying to make it through the hours of 12 p.m. to 6 a.m. The gameplay is built off of the sound design, I'd say more so than previous installments. You must go to each door and either ward off the nightmare animatronics by either shining a flashlight or shutting the door if you hear their breathing. Speaking of which, major creepy points to the nightmare designs of the animatronics. These are probably some of my favorites. They just look so evil and almost demonic in nature. If this kid is really just having some sort of nightmare or hallucination, it makes sense for them to look more dastardly than their real-life counterparts. I will give the game this. It did remind me of being a little kid, afraid at night, constantly checking under my bed for ghosts and goblins. Kudos. Well played. Thank you for reminding me of a repressed memory of my already ruined childhood. Greatly appreciated. Back to the gameplay, the core mechanics of the traditional FNAF gameplay remains. You must keep the monsters at bay. Simple enough, right? Nights 1 through 4, you must avoid Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Chica. Nightmare Foxy shows up on night 2 in your closet, which is reminiscent of the Pirate Bay setup, as if Foxy was peering from behind the curtain. On your bed, you will see a traditional Freddy doll, but that's not all. You'll find while checking doors you may hear velociraptor-like screams. These would be the Nightmare Freddy plushies that pop out of your bed. Out of context, this has to sound really fucked up. Throughout each night, the difficulty grows more and more to a point of where you are juggling monkeys and chainsaws trying to keep the animatronics at bay. Oh, I should mention that the cupcake returns on these nights too, as a wicked nightmare version. Nights 1 through 4 can be pretty simple once you learn how to balance the doors, closet, and bed. Night 5 and onward is a different story entirely. On night 5, we are introduced to Nightmare Fredbear. This has got to be one of the most horrifying animatronic designs yet. Not just that, but the rules that applied on the first 4 nights no longer matter. Rather than just opening a door and listening for breathing, you must shine your flashlight and shut the door immediately. It's a nice change of formula mid-game to keep you on your toes. Now, I'm not even gonna act surprised. We all knew there was going to be a night 6. That's just how these games go. It's even its own playable feature on the main menu, and I know why. The 6th night is probably the most fun stage to play in my opinion. It starts out with medium difficulty and you warding off Nightmare, Chica, Bonnie, Cupcake, Foxy, and the Fredheads. At the stroke, yeah I said stroke, of 2 a.m. all bets are off. Nightmare Fredbear comes out and the gameplay formula changes mid-level. It was a nice surprise. Next up is Nightmare Night 7, and we are introduced to an entirely new character, aptly named Nightmare. That's it, just Nightmare. This shadow version of Golden Fredbear is somehow even more terrifying, if that's even possible. It plays just like Night 5, just with a little bit higher difficulty and an all-new jump scare. So, rather than this, we now get this. Just when you thought Nightmare couldn't get any creepier. I will give it this credit, the jump scare itself felt like a nice callback to the original Golden Freddy jump scare from the first game. It's funny how this simplistic in nature jump scare can have such an effect. If you notice, it's just a still image. To me, the strange sounds is what makes it so creepy. All of this culminates once finishing the main game. We see what we believe to be the bite of 87. Although there is a lot of speculation around that. We'll get to that. Anyways, watch the clip. While a terrifying notion, I'll admit, did it have to be so funny? Was this intentional? I mean, look at the bullies' faces. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at this poor kid. This little guy was just fed to a Fredbear animatronic. But considering Cawthon's sense of humor in these games, I'm calling this one intentional. Other than the few humorous parts, overall, this game was dark and gritty, and depressing. More questions were answered, and enough new gameplay mechanics were added to make it feel fresh. I know a lot of people are tired of the series, or just don't like it because it's everywhere, but I still do. One thing I've realized about other horror games is that they lack replay value. Not just that, but they lack a nice payoff as well. That's one aspect I will credit Five Nights at Freddy's for. The game has a great replay value and is just challenging enough that it makes you want to continue. Yeah, you get frustrated and pissed off, but you keep playing. You want to reach the end. Well done, Cawthon. You did it again. If this is indeed the final chapter of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, then I think this was a good, solid way to go out. But I doubt it is. I guess only time will tell. Now, I know there's a lot more to cover, such as the mysteriously locked case, the purple guy, theories, Easter eggs, Halloween DLC, and even FNAF World. And don't worry, we will cover it all. But speaking for the core game alone, Five Nights at Freddy's 4 has done more than enough to go down in creepy gaming history. So join me next time in part 2 when we will be discussing the Halloween DLC for Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and briefly talk about FNAF World. Then for part 3, what you've all been waiting for, we will discuss Five Nights at Freddy's 4 secrets, theories, and Easter eggs. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you're ready for Freddy, because there's a lot more to come. That's going to do it for me today, folks. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I am Mullet Mike with Keep it sticky, stay creepy. Thanks for watching. Peace.